Wow, that was kind of cool seeing those pictures. Well, this just got real. It was pretty easy to say yes in the Bible study when it was just me and some friends. My name is Roger Rothwell. Hey. How did I go from being a 15-year heroin junkie, a cocaine addict, a crackhead, severe alcoholic, lost, broken, and wounded, and completely empty inside, go from thinking life sucks? My biggest hope for the day was, I hope this is it. I hope whatever happens to me today, death finds me. The second song that we sang, that whole song was like my testimony, except for he did it in 3 minutes. But it was the same thing. And in all that craziness, all of that you could have said, the world had tossed me aside, this guy is a new man, born again. I'm an ordained pastor. I don't know why or how they ever chose me to do that. I started a recovery church in Cape Coral this year. I love the recovery community. I love Jesus. It seems like y'all know how to do it. I'm an active owner of a marketplace discipleship program. You saw a little bit of the slides called the House of Hope. That was some of the equipment that you saw in there. We go out, we work together. We're kind of like the Acts style of church. So we work together, we live together, we play together, we do everything together. Iron sharpening iron. So I've started multiple businesses in the last 5 years, and I'm now engaged to a God girl who sits right here in the front row. I get to do life with her. If you would have told me 5 years ago I would be doing this, that my few yeses to Jesus back then would lead me to different doors that new yeses would bring me to, I would never, ever, ever had imagined that this is exactly where I would be. And I love that. It says you will be known, they will be known by how they love. And I just want to thank you all for that. As I walk through them doors tonight, every single person, man, thank you for loving me. Thank you for accepting me in here tonight. So this new guy, I'm a new guy. Becoming the father, you saw my son up there, the father I always wanted to be. I wasn't always good for him. I'm a new guy who's becoming the son I've always wanted to be, not always good to my mom. The brother that I've always wanted to be, the friend that I've always wanted to be, and shortly, the husband that I get to be. And I didn't do it alone, and it didn't happen by accident, that's for sure. I had the pleasure to do all this with my little brother. You saw him in a couple of those pictures, who 5 years ago was trying to kill himself. He was having thoughts of killing our whole family. He was going to take us all out. In his darkness, in his addiction with heroin, that I introduced him to. I introduced him to every single drug that he had ever done, because that's just who I was. I was that guy. And my brother walks free of this today. He actually walked through the doors to the church I'm going to get to in a minute, to a pastor. So the last 5 years, I have had the pleasure to walk through all of this craziness with my brother Josh. He's a big part of my rescue story. I couldn't have done it without him. I couldn't have done it without my church people. I couldn't have done it without these rooms. I couldn't have done it without people that were truthful to me. They said, no, Roger, that's retarded. That's stupid. Don't do it that way. I had a lot of the world in me. So today I'm not only clean and sober, and actually, because for me, life just clean and sober actually sucked. Life clean and sober sucked. It sucked more for me than being messed up all the time. But clean and sober was a necessary start for me to find the beauty, to find what life really meant. But I couldn't stand it. But I had to deal with the real problems in my life. I don't think I had a drug problem or a drinking problem. They were my answers. They were answers to an already problem. I had a solution problem. I needed new solutions. So that's when I started to realize, wow, these things that were eating at me well before I decided to do drugs, well before I decided to drink, Those were those were the roots that I had to get back to. So I had to find purpose. I had to find meaning. And I did that through the steps. And I had a lot of mentors along the way. Once I realized that I had been brainwashed by the world, that I had literally been conformed to the world, I bought every single broken system that they sold me. And I tried it multiple times thinking that for some reason the product was gonna be better, and it never turned out better. My way of thinking, it was the biggest problem. The world always gave me the perception that if I got this, I would have joy. If I had that, I would have happiness. If I got that, I would find love. And every time you get to it, it's just like, it's like smoke. Didn't matter how much I gained, it didn't matter how much I got. There was nothing that the world promised me. They sold me a perception, and I fell for it for a lot of years. So once I realized I was brainwashed and conformed to the world, I bought into a broken system that offers no real purpose that anyone could really define for me, and how to experience authentic joy, peace, or love from within. My way of thinking was my biggest problem. And even with these things that I actually now have in my life, and some of those things, I'm 5 years sober. When I got asked to do this tonight, this other part of me was like, no. You're watching a series on Netflix on Monday night, no. And this other part of me is like, yes. And in that Bible study, I was like, yeah, I'll do that. You know what I mean? This is what keeps me sober. Me giving back, me actually being able to get up here, get out of my comfort zone. This is not comfortable to do this, but I realized that the things that I follow that are comfortable, they always hurt me, and they always end up hurting me. So I started to realize I'm going to start following the uncomfortable things. But I consider myself today 5 years I'm 5 years sober today. Not this very day. Not this very day, but today in general. But I only consider myself a beggar, helping other beggars find some bread. So here's a little of my story. I am an addict, an alcoholic who found an amazing way to navigate life. I not only believe in Jesus Christ, but I am madly in love with who he is. My struggles today are with feelings of not being good enough, the lies in my head of low self-worth, that my pride that's always fighting my insecurities that always brings conflict and chaos into my life. The insanity of my life, like I said earlier, was buying everything the world was selling, and the perception just wasn't real. I never, ever got what they said I would get from doing that. I looked for success, that life was gonna be awesome, this amazing dream that if I could only get to this certain status, if I could only have more money, it would be good, life would be good. Life's purpose was about gaining things to feel good about myself. So really everything I was trying to do was to feel good about myself, and I was trying to use all these things to do that. And I always felt empty. It always felt like there was a void there. Eventually, every single thing I did became a facade. There was nothing real or authentic about who I was, how I felt. I had to live between what I was able to show you and what I was really feeling on the inside. And I became really good at the game. I became really good at acting out what I thought that you wanted me to be. I hated religion. I hated God. The God I knew, the understanding of the God I knew was so radically defined by people in the world that never had a relationship with him. But I believed it. I believed it for a long, long time until I was like, wait a minute here. I've never found out anything about any of this for myself. I have believed what they said. I believe what they said. I believe what they said. None of these people follow Jesus. None of these people even know God. So my perception, my understanding of God was so skewed and so messed up that when I started reading the Bible, I was like, wow, the God of the Bible is just totally not like the way that I thought he was. So I hated religion. When I came out of rehab, I was in rehab for 33 days, and someone tried mentioning Jesus to me, and I said, I do not want your Jesus. I do not need your Jesus, and I can get on with my life without needing that crutch. You go ahead and you do what you do with your Jesus. just so full of pride and so full of ego. But my relationship with people was so transactional. There wasn't anything in it for me. I wasn't going to be there. If there was not something in it for Roger, you wasn't going to see me there. Everything I did was transactional. Even when I tried loving people, it was because I actually needed your love, is why I showed you attention, because I needed attention. Why I needed love, I would go out and try to love just so I could get love in return. It wasn't even about you. It was actually all about me. And the facade was crazy, but I needed you to like me. I needed you to like me so I could feel good about myself and who I was. I became so fake, I could act out any person that I wanted to for you because you would like me and make me feel good about myself. But I knew who I was. I know who I was when I went to bed every night, and who I was when I went to bed every night was not the man you saw. The man you saw was the man you needed to see, because there was likely some reason that I needed something from that. So my relationship with people was very, very transactional. I had no identity. I was needy. I needed my circumstances to be going good in order to be good. And if my circumstances weren't good, my circumstances were my God. They were the ones that were tossing me to and fro everywhere. My lowest point was actually being sober right after I got out of rehab. The world was still the same, but now I had to walk through it sober and alone. I had already disregarded your Jesus. So now I had to do it sober and alone. I thought getting clean would change things. At the beginning, I actually hated life being sober, because now I had to face, this was the biggest thing, I had to face who I was. I couldn't escape myself like I used to. I could easily escape myself at any given time. It was so easy, but I needed to do this. My son, you saw him on the thing, my son was getting 8 years old, and he starts looking at me like, I don't know, Dad. And I'm like, okay, I got to do something here. But I couldn't face myself. Well, I could, but I just didn't know how. So I came into recovery ashamed, rejected, full of self-pity, full of self-doubt, low self-esteem, a molested victim, abused, hurt, and scared. I remember my mom calling me every night. My greatest accomplishment for the day was I stayed sober. She was like, how'd you do today, Raj? Did you drink? No, Mom. Good job, Roger. How'd you do today, Raj? Did you do any drugs? No. Good job, Roger. And I said, there has got to be more to life than just being clean and sober. There has to be. There has to be more to life than being clean and sober. So shortly after this, I go to a halfway house. I get kicked out. First time in my life, I actually get kicked out for like a possession thing that wasn't mine. I got away with a lot that were mine, but this time I actually got kicked out. It wasn't mine, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I remember this girl, Carrie Ann, telling me I had an issue with pride. I needed to humble myself. So pridefully, I left, I scoffed at her, and I was like, I'm gonna show her. Well, I ended up in a $50 hotel till I had absolutely no money, nothing. I became a beggar. I met a pastor who just started a discipleship program called the House of Hope. So I used his generosity for 3 hots and a cot. I did not expect to be there for very long, but I knew that he was probably Christian and that he probably had a good heart and he was probably gonna let me do some things. My manipulation game was still pretty good. Yeah, let me do that. He's like, you know Jesus? Oh, yeah, I know him. So he let me stay there until my mind was, until I can get to go somewhere else. Well, that was 5 years ago. I'm still there. I never left. I'm now part owner. Yeah. I'm now part owner with my brother, the same man who wanted to kill himself, kill my family, the guy I introduced to heroin a long time ago. He's also a part owner with me and that pastor. But the thing that I saw is, I guess I thought Jesus maybe was like a magic magician, or maybe God was like a magician, like poof, you're healed, and like poof, you know, you don't want to do drugs no more, that kind of thing. But I saw something in this man. I saw the authentic love of God. I saw that he loved me without anything in return. He never wanted nothing from me. He wanted me to walk clean. He wanted me to walk sober, and he wanted me to walk as a child of God, set free from the bondage I was living in. He didn't want no recognition. He didn't even want me to know his name. When he showed me and brought me into the house, he's like, hey man, I love you, bro. Have a great night. I'll see you later. And I'm like, this guy has no idea who I am. I'm like, what is he doing? Just that amount of grace, something changed in me that said, oh, I don't want to take anything from this house. Why am I feel like I need to do something different here? So it was kind of a weird relationship at first, but my step 1 and 2, so after that, I started to realize that the lies of Jesus that I had been told were just that. My step 1 and 2 happened at a gas station. I had been around these people, crazy Christian freaks, Jesus freaks. I had been around these for about a month at this point. Now, they said that they knew the real Jesus and believed they had a relationship with this Jesus dude. So I'm like, okay, they really believe this. All by myself, humbled, hurting, broken. I say, God, Jesus, whatever they call you, because they call you a couple different things. I've heard it both ways. I want to know you. I don't want to know about you. I don't want to know about all the things that you had done. I know a lot about you. So I was at this gas station, and I literally said in the middle of the gas station, I was like, Jesus, God, whatever they call you, you said, your thing says, if Jesus is who he says he is, I can know him like a friend. Will you show yourself to me? Will you reveal yourself to me? I want to know if you're real. Will you do that for me? And I start looking around. I'm like, man, I'm right in the middle of the gas station. And I go back in. I pay for my gas. Okay. I get back out and I'm driving and I'm just like, The crazy thoughts start that usually run through my mind. This little war that's constantly going on inside of me, and I'm just like, what? It just happened. There's some things that are going on. I've never felt the experience, and I think it was just because, like my whole life, I had been so opposed to Jesus that I fought against it the whole time. And once I actually wanted him to be my friend and I wanted to know him, that whole thing just went, whoom. The rebellion that I had against God went away. Things changed for me that day. And when that happened, everything didn't just go all of a sudden according to plan by any means. But the weird conflict was gone. So there was a piece, the voices in my head. Okay, we got there. Step 3. This happened about 6 months later, because during that, when I finally said, okay, Jesus, all of this, now I thought that I had everything under control. Like, hey, Raj, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing good. I got Jesus. I am sober. Everything is going amazing. And I still had a lot of the world in me. So me and Jesus had a lot of work to do. Now that I had Jesus, I had to do something with him. And that's what I realized. I thought that everything was going to be good. My magic Jesus was just going to go poof, and everything would just be fine. But I start reading the Bible, and it's like, no, Jesus calls you somewhere. I have to say yes, and then I have to step, and I got to walk, and then I got to do this. There's some things I got to do. If he's a spiritual being and I'm in a natural world, then I actually have to walk with him and partner with him and say yes to those things. I couldn't sit in the front room and do nothing and just say, I got Jesus. Nothing would have changed. But now Jesus started changing me to walk through the things I couldn't walk through before. So that's what changed for me. My Jesus started to give me, that thing, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's what started to happen. It wasn't like Jesus suddenly just went poof like this magician, 3 wishes, and here you go, buddy. I was like, no, I want to start doing this. Every time that I got into a place where I didn't understand, because I didn't understand this whole walk. I had no idea. But I did. I surrendered. It was in step 3 that I said, all right, I had Jesus. Nothing's really changed. I need to start listening to the Bible. I need to start obeying the Bible. I need to make Jesus my Lord, and I need to make Jesus my King. Once I started doing that, and once I started saying yes, I still had these voices in my head calling me away from Jesus, but I also had these other voices calling me into this loving place. And once it was uncomfortable. It was super comfortable following the voices of destruction. I knew that voice. Me and him had been buddies for a long time. This other voice I wasn't so sure of. It was uncomfortable. It was super weird. But I could start to recognize my comfort level and that I had to start chasing these things. Bill W. and Jesus says the same thing. We're all spiritually sick. Half measures profit us nothing. You saw it up here, Matthew 5:3. We are all spiritually poor. Those that realize that, the kingdom of heaven is theirs. When I realize that I'm a spiritually sick man, and the only thing that can actually help me isn't part of the world, it's actually Jesus. It's some sort of spiritual being far greater than I am, and that man and that person is Jesus. It changed things for me. He became my king. He became my Lord. He became my best friend. He became everything to me. I was convinced the power of God was changing me like nothing ever could. It was a new way of living, a new way of loving, seemed to be what life's meaning and purpose was supposed to be like. I was hooked. Today, you could not pay me enough money to go do drugs again. You could not pay me enough money to have another drink. I have never felt better about who I am in Christ than any kind of person or identity that I ever found in a bag or that I found in a bar stool. I love who I am. I love who I'm becoming. It's a learning process. Like I'm 48 years old and I feel like a little kid again. The innocence that was stolen from me back there that I just had to somehow just kind of shove down, it gave me new life. Like I'm born again. Like I'm a new guy with new desires, and it's a beautiful walk. I went from a newcomer who just hated being sober, still hating life, to a guy that was hungry for more of this weird spiritual thing that was happening to me. But I knew I had to keep seeking. Step 4 made me realize that there are 2 natures working inside of all peoples at all time. There's a nature that has an appetite for destruction. Guns N' Roses made an album about it. There is a nature that also has an appetite for love and for life and the beauty of why we're all here. The next few steps that I walked through helped me learn how to heal from the past. A lot of my past was owning me. I had to get up there. I had to face it. It was either going to own me or I was going to own it. And it had owned me for long enough. I had to stand up to the things that happened to me when I was a kid. I had to stand up to the things I did to other people as through my craziness. I learned how to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things would be added unto me. Good things that life has to offer. I also saw that if I surrendered and I obeyed the nature of sin, the fruit that came with that was destruction. It emptied me. It stole life away from me. But if I was able to surrender to the other voice, the spirit within me, then it actually gave me life. It actually gave me this beautiful thing that I could walk through. Now I get to love people for real. My relationships are authentic. Through the steps and the Bible, I've learned to love who I'm becoming. I used to tell everyone about the best drugs in town and the best bars in town, and now I tell them that there's something way better than any drug or any bar that you could ever find. There is a supernatural love that the world will never, ever, ever be able to give you. No matter how much you do of it, no matter where you look, you will not have this inner beauty, this inner love that you have. Hang on, I think I got lost here a minute. Here we go. Okay, shape me from nothing to what I am today. So I got a lot of life to live. I live in the last 2 steps of the 12 steps, or the last 3. Discipline. Continue to take personal inventory. What voice am I going to surrender to, and what are the results I'm going to see? That's what I do. I go home to bed at night. I get to see, okay, I did this. This is what happened. I did this. This is what happened. What gave me life? What took life from me? I have to be disciplined about it. You know, Jesus isn't going to force me to make a decision. I had to make the decision, but at least he gives me the discernment to see the choice. So now I get to see the choice. Now I get to see that choice. I try not to let things rent free space in my mind. As uncomfortable as it might be, I'm brutally honest with myself. I don't have an issue saying things like, that hurt me. I'm scared. As things start happening to me, the truth will set me free. I'm going to talk to you about it. I'm going to get it out of me. I'm going to reveal it. These rooms, the round circles that we have, we're all talking about these things. You know, there's a nature inside of me that wants to take me down. I'm telling on him. I'm not telling on myself. I'm telling on this thing that wants to take me out all day, every day. Step 11 is spiritual awareness. I pray daily talking to Jesus. I'm in the Bible. I'm constantly trying to seek how I can know Jesus more today than I did yesterday. I'm seeking wisdom from heaven. I don't even know what that looks like, but I'm like, God, I don't know what this looks like, but I'm seeking wisdom from heaven. You know, all of a sudden you start hearing these things that happen. You start being directed in certain ways. I find myself here on a Monday night, and it's amazing. This stuff keeps me going. 12. Oh, wow. Isn't this awesome? That's my son. I'm the only guy. I'm that guy. I'm that guy, Kip. All right, I'll wrap it up here. Step 12. Having had a beautiful spiritual awakening, thank you, Jesus, for that. As a result of these steps, we will carry this message to anyone who is struggling with addiction or the poison of sin and practice these principles in all of our affairs. This is what keeps me full of life. This is success. And why I choose to disciple men at the House of Hope. It's why I chose to start the Recovery Church in Cape Coral. It's why I chose to be here tonight. This is probably just as much for me as it is for you. This keeps me sober. This keeps me going. This gives me life. I get to experience love by loving God and loving people. And this is what I tell myself every night when I go to bed. I'm just one beggar helping another beggar find some bread. Thanks for letting me share.